So the big headline that's standing out to me is this Delta plane crash. You have all
Mhm.
probably seen footage of it. Melonie, I'm sure you're aware of it.
Yeah.
But a commercial plane that was flying from Minnesota to Toronto crashed and flipped at the airport in
Wow.
Toronto. From what I can see, it says up to 18 people treated for injuries, but I haven't seen, excuse me, at least not yet, any reports of fatalities, which I
Okay.
find kind of crazy. I'm gonna double check as we're talking about it
Hopefully
here.
not. And
Um,
yeah.
but I mean, like, I'll play a video in a second. The footage is wild. I mean, airplanes crash, but I don't normally see them roll.
I
It says,
know.
yeah, this is from Fox. The plane crash, which involved a Delta Airline CRJ 900 jet that departed from Minneapolis, was first reported by CTV. The flight was identified as Delta Connection Flight 4819, operated by Endeavor Air, and carried 80 people. The incident was reported around 2:15 local time. Pictures of the scene show the plane upside down and mangled by a snow-covered runway. 4 crew
Oh.
members and 76 passengers were on the flight. 18 people were treated for injuries following crash, including 3 who were critically injured and taken
Oh.
to a local hospital. So I guess we'll have to watch their condition.
Wow.
So these are the photos. You can see this plane like that. It's not supposed to be like that.
No.
Delta
What is
logo upside
going
down.
on with all of these? Is this a more abnormal amount of plane crashes happening lately, or are we just seeing news of it more?
I actually don't know. Like I remember this happening a couple times over the last 2 years where we get these really big train crashes. Like I remember the one in
Right.
Palestine, Ohio. And that one was particularly complicated because of the chemicals and stuff. But when you look it up, there are actually kind of like 1,000 train derailments every year. It's not that they're not
Oh.
common. It's just that one happened to be chemical spill in a residential area and it had that dramatic fire. With flights, like I don't know that flight crashes are
Okay.
that common, but I don't have a statistic to go off of. So I feel like I'm
Right.
not totally qualified
Curious
to
if
judge it.
chat knows, but you know what's funny is on a flight once, I just some random person that was sitting next to me on a flight once. He was kind of like into conspiracies and stuff, and I am too. So yeah, it was a fun discussion.
You're
But
like,
I think
hello,
he
best
was
friend.
like, I know, I think he was like an ex-pilot or something. But he
Mhm.
said, now I don't think I believe this, but he said, "Oh, if flights are when planes crash and stuff, there's always some conspiracy behind it because planes are unable to crash." Like I don't know how he explained it, but like the way is like the way they're programmed or something. He's like
There is a lot of autopilot involved, right? So
yeah,
it seems like unless there's a mechanical failure, it would be hard
right.
for it not to. Have you ever heard of the podcast Missing in Alaska?
No.
It's about so there were 2 congressmen, Nick Begich, who was a Democrat from Alaska, and Hale Boggs, who was a congressman from Louisiana. I believe they're congressmen. They might have been senators. Now that I'm saying that loud. No, they're members of Congress.
Okay.
And I think it must have been the 1990s. They Hale Boggs is really influential, and so he went to Alaska to help Begich like campaign. And in
Okay.
Alaska, because it's rural, there are actually a lot of people who take like small planes to get places. Like you wouldn't drive, but you could fly there.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And their plane, and they had some aides and other staff members, went down. And it was like one of those planes that's small enough where it's like 5 or 6 people are on it. And it was never seen again. And when I was listening to the podcast, they have this statistic, and I wish I could better quote it, but they say basically like 95% of flights like that go down or crash are recovered in some way. And this flight, it completely disappeared. Like it's not like they could find like the tail or the black box. Like there was no whatever, which is really uncommon. And it makes me think that like for the most part, we have flying kind of figured out, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have it here. I'm going to play this video of this plane in Toronto landing yesterday.
Okay.
Oh no.
Oh my
It
goodness.
just kind of keeps going through the snow.
Wow.
It's airplane just crashed into Greek.
Like,
And they just were happened to be recording it. They're probably like, oh, look how
know.
neat. I can watch this plane land. And oh my goodness. I wonder if that's like something with the wheels. Like, how did that even happen?
I mean, we should really have called an engineer, a lady engineer for AstroCast.
Yeah, of course.
You
A
can see
DEI
the-
engineer.
Yes, a DEI only. That's the thing. Like, for two people who definitely don't identify as feminists, like, it's not that I hate women. I just like,
Exactly.
we get along with them.
Yeah.
You watch this, you can see the plane is coming down. This looks like how planes normally land to me, right?
Yeah,
The wheels
yeah.
are being lowered, and there is a lot of snow on
That's
the
true.
tarmac.
Yeah.
But it's Canada, so surely
They probably always a snow. Yeah, you would think.
I mean, so then it goes down. So I'm gonna drag this really
Oh,
slowly.
it looks like the bottom hit.
Like the wheels broke or something.
The wheels, yeah, I don't know. And then the back of the plane hit, and just the friction of that, I guess.
Yes,
Wow.
and that would cause the fire, maybe.
Yeah.
And it just seems to swerve to the side. It's on fire, and then it's like one of the wings tips or breaks off, and it just rolls.
Well, prayerfully, everybody will survive this. I know there were 3 in critical condition, but since it was different than like a nosedive hit or something like that, at least the initial landing happened, right?
The fact that there were no fatalities is kind of wild to me. I mean,
know,
there
with all that
fatalities
fire.
on board that was in South Korea? There was one that like slid into a wall a couple months ago.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and you asked the best question, which is like, is this happening more than normal? What do you think?
I mean, it definitely seems like it's happening more than normal. It's either that or the media, for whatever reason, wants us to think that it's happening more than normal. One or the other, because like if this is a more common thing to happen and it's like the same kind of statistics, we haven't been seeing all these reports like crazy. Like in recent history, I can think of like the missing Malaysian airline that happened, but not a whole lot of actual plane crashes apart from like those really small planes that, you know, different, like not commercial
Yeah,
plane
like
type stuff.
private,
Yeah.
or I don't know if you would call them recreational or what.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Like to me, it definitely appears like it's happening more all of a sudden, but I don't know if perhaps this could be they don't want people flying as much. So every time something's happening, they're blasting it on the news. I mean, God forbid any of this is manufactured. I would hope not. But just saying, like, it definitely seems like it could be possible that they're trying to deter people from that. I mean, we already know that they've wanted us to stay home with lockdowns, things like that. Is this to scare people from flying? I don't know.
I mean, but what would the benefit of that be? Like, who is they though? You know, like,
Yeah,
who
I know. I would just
wanting people to not fly, because the airline industry, travel industry, I'm sure has their own lobbying branch. They pay for stuff. Like, them not having customers doesn't help them.
Yeah.
There's another political development that I'll get into in a second that might feed some of this, but I wanted to pull up this article here. Sorry, first I'll pull up this one from ABC News. There are some survivors of this plane crash that have started speaking out, describing what it was like to be there. You know,
wow.
This person is saying the winds were whipping pretty hard. The runways were covered in snow. It was incredibly fast. There was a giant firewall down the side. I could actually feel the heat through the glass. Then we were going sideways. I'm not even sure how many times we tumbled, but we ended up upside down.
And no warning, they said that one person set up there. So they just like the pilot wasn't like, hey guys, brace yourselves. We're about to, you know, they had no warning all of a sudden, and they're upside down. A lot of people will unbuckle their seatbelts already by the time you're landing.
No, I'm never going to. And we had
Yeah.
that one in DC. It's like 2 different flights recently that on descent. There was an issue.
Yeah.
This guy says, we released the seatbelts. I kind of fell to the floor, which is now the ceiling, and helped the lady next to me out of her seatbelt.
Wow.
You know, I don't like to get paranoid, but it's not good.
I mean, some of these people, if not all, are going to have some sort of PTSD after this. They're going to be, I mean, imagine like trying to fly after encountering something like that. I mean, that would be terrifying.
it would be crazy. Here's another picture of it they included. And it's all
Wow.
scorched and stuff. This is an
Yeah.
article from 2023, The Hill posted. Up to 40% of Americans fear flying, and they're saying it's in.
Wow.
So this was before
Oh, that was
March of
2023.
2023. So that was pre-election
Huh.
times.
So they are. That's what's okay. It's just odd to be reporting that before any of this crazy stuff has been reported on. I don't know. Again,
But I mean, because there were plane crashes last year. It just seems like the last 4 weeks have been bad. Although there were a couple international over Christmas.
right?
This says that only 5% of Americans have aviophobia, so severe they cannot fly.
Hmm.
But then a lot of people have some sort of mild version of it. Do you
That's-
think this will make it worse, or do you think that people will just continue keep it on?
I think it'll definitely make it worse. That was one thing that, I used to travel all the time. Like when I was working in the gaming industry, I was like on a plane at some point, like sometimes once a week. Like I was
Mhm.
constantly flying and I just I wasn't scared of it at all. And I would see
Mhm.
people that would be kind of scared and I would even try to like help comfort people. But it just never even crossed my mind that, oh, this isn't, because you didn't see plane crashes reported that much. It was just like some freak accident, right?
Right.
But now with all of these crashes happening, I don't know. I think maybe it would at least be on my radar of, I might not be like super scared about it, but it would at least be like, ooh, in the back of my mind, whereas it wasn't before. So
Right.
I definitely can see how all of these reports coming in and this getting all this coverage could make people more scared to fly.
Right. And not unreasonably either.